for those nitrogen sources. So, obviously with any of these sources, it's very important to ensure that it's all about availability when the crops need it. As we know, a lot of these modern corn hybrids require more and more nitrogen later in the growing season. So, Dan, if you just want to kind of touch on what we can do to accommodate that demand for nitrogen later in the growing season, whether it be split applications, nitrogen stabilizers, what are some of those things that we do?
Sure. Thanks, Isaiah. And thanks for covering that. As Isaiah talked about, there's a wide variety of nitrogen sources and how those fit into your operation. You have to make that decision. But I think also maybe before we go into a little bit of discussion on some applications, I think we need to look at what are some of the characteristics that your soil has that can also impact some of the nitrogen aspects and some of the application as well. As is talked about in ProAg training, our soils can hold roughly about 10 pounds of nitrogen for every point of CEC. So if you got a lighter, sandier soil, that's say 8 or 9, maybe we should only be applying about 80 or 90 pounds of total nitrogen at one time. Whereas if we have a heavier soil with a CEC of 20, there we can apply 200 pounds of nitrogen at one time. So that plays into some of these application aspects, some of the rates that you're looking at, and some of your management decisions. And I think realistically, looking at nitrogen, it is probably short of the seeds and the chemicals that you may be applying. Nitrogen is probably the biggest fertilizer input cost that you're going to have.
Absolutely.
So we need to be doing an excellent job of managing that and looking at, as Isaiah talked about, are we doing some early applications? Are we doing some applications in the fall with some anhydrous? And if we're doing that, how much of that nitrogen are we truly expecting to still be around when that crop, as Isaiah said, it needs most of the nitrogen at and after pollination? How much of that nitrogen are we truly expecting to have around in the June, July, August time period? Probably, as Isaiah talked about, probably not the best option. Are you doing some pre-plant applications with some nitrogen? Because there are some early nitrogen demands that we need to make certain that we're covering. However, you don't necessarily want to put all your nitrogen, push all your chips in at one time pre-plant. I think a better application, provided it fits into your management practices, is to apply some nitrogen early and then come back and do maybe a second or a third application, do a sideband application. I think anytime we can do any type of a band application, that's going to work out much better for us. That's going to get the nitrogen down into the root zone to where the plants have a better opportunity to take it up. And Isaiah will talk about some of that here in a little bit with the stabilizer products that are available. But there, as he talked about, there are some split applications where we can come in and whether that's putting additional nitrogen down or putting some down at planting this 2x2, coming back in season and doing a side dress application, whether that's 3x3, 4x4. I think the closer we can get to the rows, the better. Or maybe we're using the 360 wide drops or possibly some drop nozzles or something like that to get out and get that nitrogen in to get it applied. So there's a variety of opportunities to do that. We just have to figure out what is the best situation and what is the best opportunity for your farm based upon what equipment you have, what's available for you to use, what your soil characteristics are, so that we can get the best return on that nitrogen investment. So, and then use nitrogen stabilizers to extend that time period that nitrogen is going to be in that root zone